Thank you very much. Colleagues, my name is Rofhiwa Raselavhe. Yeah, and as I talk, guys, I'm used to moving around, so I won't be standing here, but I think you'll be able to follow me on my presentation. So the presentation is just going to focus. Okay, colleagues, without wasting time, I'll just go straight to it. My presentation will be focusing mainly on inclusive education. It's about STEM inclusivity. It's about the inclusion of our brothers and sisters. Some of them are living with who require special education needs. So the presentation here mainly focuses, for example, what we do as STEMI practitioners, especially STEMI professionals, when we go there out in the field to try and engage with learners and young people in our area. The question is, what are we doing also in the same time to make sure that we're catering for learners with special needs? So this is why the presentation, that's what I will be focusing on. Then the main objective here is to identify the challenges that hinders those STEMI professionals to do what they are required to do. Then the second part of it is also try to find out if there are any initiatives in South Africa to ensure that those learners are also catered for. For example, they get access to information about STEM career opportunities. And then after that, we'll also try to look at the nature of initiatives that we can do or we can use to make sure that those learners receive support, they receive information about those STEM careers. Okay. All right, thank you. So we just try to do like a mixed method approach to try to get the qualitative part and the quantitative part, whereby we engaged with more than 30 participants. However, we managed to get at least responses from 25, whereby we also consulted with existing policy document and also your reports from the Department of Basic Education. For example, probably at the moment we have like more than 400,000 learners who are living with disability. The question is, how many of those learners are we reaching? So that's why we decided to engage with these organizations. Yeah, so this is how we got the most of the responses, that 68% of our respondents were male, and then 32% were female. And we also had representation from different race groups that participated. I want to skip this one so that I go to the class of the presentation. All right. Yeah, you can also. Okay, if you see me pressing and then it's not moving, please help me. Yeah? To the laptop. All right. So, yeah, next. Next again. Okay, again, for example, we tried to see how many, we tried to reach people from across the country, but we had responses from about 8 district municipalities in the country, and majority of them were within the city of Tshwane. So if you can see, these are the type of the responses that we got. The people who are STEMI professionals. Some of them are science engagement officers, science engagement managers, active managers. Most of them were managers, and also in the field of communication and stakeholder engagement. So we try also to see the approach that we're going to take, the theoretical part, to see what do we mean by access to STEMI information. So some of the things that we'll need that, we decided to follow the VP5 methodology, which will also look into things like the vision and stuff. But for this study, we only focused on the 5 aspects, namely adopted teaching and learning, accessibility, and then you also look into support, resources, and access. So those are the main things that, for example, if you're going to say we're having universal access to education, especially for learners with special needs, you're also going to make sure that those learners have got resources to support them. There is also access, there is also acceptance in the schooling community or whatever the environment it is, to make sure that they're able to learn and continue. Yeah, just to give a global context, there is consensus. For example, like schools should provide inclusive education for all children. That is from UNESCO. And at the same time, there's also that children with special needs to be exposed. The question is, they may be exposable now, but what is the level of that exposure? And then recent trends in South Africa have shown that there is a low number of graduates in engineering, health, and sciences. And currently STEM education awareness is not being universally practiced due to different, for example, what I'm talking about is going to talk about exclusion. Yes, it's not a total exclusion, but there is exclusion of learners with special needs. You will see the numbers when I go forward. And then one more other thing is that in the near future, there's going to be a demand for these skills. In fact, there is demand at the moment. However, there is little or no mention of opportunities for learners with special needs, which means as much as we are preaching, we want to reach more children, but those kids there, they remain, for example, in their corners. We are not going and trying to reaching out to them. So what I did here was try to find out if, for example, there is any form of motivation to show that these learners with special needs, they can be able to do these things. So I decided to compile some of the people that are living or have lived with disabilities that have grown to show that they have the abilities to function or to work in the STEM industry. We've got Thomas Edison, who was an inventor, one of the greatest inventors, who had a hearing problem. We also have Dr. Prof. Steve Hawking, who was also one of the people who is living with special needs. So it shows that these things are possible, however, only if resources, because if there is one thing that came in here about all of them, is that they were provided with access, resources, and support. That, for example, most of the learners at this stage are not getting. We can go to the next one. Yeah, so this was our responses to see. We did ask this science engagement organization and NGOs in South Africa, what kind of science engagement, what kind of a career awareness opportunity are they doing? Some of them, they say, for example, 21 out of 25 said they are doing science exhibitions. 23 out of 25 said they are doing science education. And then you have got 17 who said, no, we are also doing career development services. Some of them are also involved. So which means they are involved in all these kind of science engagement initiatives. And yes, others were mentioned like robotics and so on. We can. So here is the response, for example. We did ask, like majority of the organization, they say they reach over 1,000 learners a year, right? Then the second question to that was that out of that 1,000 you say you reach per year, how many of you maybe do you reach learners with special needs? They said yes. For example, 9 out of 10 said they reach 10 to 20 learners in a year. In fact, in 3 years, for example, which means in the last 3 years, since 2020, they've only reached maybe 10 to 20 learners. And I think only 2 organizations indicated that they have reached over 100 learners who are living with special needs, while some just indicated that they do not. You can see with the numbers that these numbers may not be enough, considering that we have 400,000 learners with special needs. So if we are battling to reach at least more than 100, it's a challenge. So we decided to say we are to identify the challenges as to, maybe because now you're saying you are battling to reach these learners, what are the main challenges that you're facing as the organizations or as STEMI professionals? Some of them, for example, they have asked them if they have access for learners with a special need. They said yes. And then, but however, when it comes to them, if they have resources that are tailor-made for learners with special needs, especially STEM awareness or STEM career guidance resources. 80% of them said no. So which means even if we are reaching them, what is it that we are doing when we get there, since we don't have adequate resources? And then some of those challenges, for example, will include lack of requisite skills, which means they don't have interpreters for sign languages who will be able to engage with those learners. They don't have the resources. They also, for example, this is not part of our mandate. We are doing something different. And also the issue of facilities, that our facilities don't accommodate this. And also, I don't know, I was surprised to see this one of load shedding. How does it come in? So I just put it there, but I didn't believe it's something that is going to do that. And then another 64%, we asked them if they do have the capacity. If somebody was to come with resources and say, do it. 64% of that, they said, yes, they do have capacity to engage in that with the learners. We also asked them, those who said they do have, for example, the resources. What type of resources? Do you have any poster that you can use to engage with these learners? You can see like 8 out of 25 will say no. Yes, we do have posters. 9 out of 25 will say we do have braille STEM material. So those are some of the things that it shows that the gap is still less than 50% if you look at it. While the majority indicated that they do not have any materials that to cater for learners with special needs. So we also try to ask them to say, okay, since you are saying that, do you have any intentions to cater for these learners, for example, if something was to happen? Majority of them did indicate that, yes, we do have intentions to do that, but provided that we got resources and any other form of support that will help us to engage with those learners with special needs. So the proposed method as a result of this study tried to say, what is it that can be done to make sure that the learners are provided with the adequate material? It will be development of the strategies and also recruitment of special needs education professionals into STEMI. So which means we have to engage with the special school and to be able to accommodate those learners. The development of material. Okay, thank you. And also make sure that to create an environment that is inclusive and also to partner with the organizations that are working with those learners. In terms of the findings, I think I will not touch much on them, but it just shows that majority of the organizations have reached less than 100 learners in the previous, which is a very small number, whereby 80% of the organization, they don't have access to the materials. Then the issue of time constraints and also the issue of focus, like the issue of learners with special needs is not a focus at the moment. And then the last one, for example, one of the findings is just to find ways if we can join forces with the organization and institutions that work with learners with special needs. And then these are just some of the few recommendations, which I believe is the last slide. For example, number one, there we're looking at the development of the career awareness resources, and then also encourage and train existing STEMI professionals with special needs. So which means we have to, if the professionals that we have them, they have to be skilled, capacitated in those, for example, your sign language and so on. And also sharing of success stories with other professionals, especially those who are familiar with the learners, and also the use of technology that can also be considered. And I think that was the last one. Thank you very much.
It is 2 eyes. I didn't see it. So on your breadboard, here, right? At the bottom here, right?